My dad said, "Don't cause a scene," when I wouldn't let my sister wear white at my wedding. But when security stopped her, all 120 guests turned and stared. I didn't apologize. You know that feeling when your gut screams danger even before the phone rings? That's exactly how I felt 2 weeks before my wedding. Every single day, a new emergency from my mom. But honestly, nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the sheer audacity, the unbelievable betrayal that was about to unfold. It shattered everything I thought I knew about family. My phone buzzed against the coffee table, Mom's name flashing on the screen. I let it ring 3 times, bracing myself, then answered. "Hi, Mom." Her voice, that artificially bright tone that always meant a demand was coming, chirped Serafina. "You need to come over right away. Your sister needs to talk to you about something important for the wedding." My stomach clenched. Seriously? Can't she just call me? I have final dress alterations in 2 hours. But Mom insisted, her voice sharpening. "This isn't something that can be discussed over the phone. Marin has been working on a surprise for you. You'll want to see it in person." I closed my eyes, picturing the half-dozen other surprises from my sister that had left me smiling through gritted teeth. It was just easier to give in. "Fine, I'll be there in 30 minutes. The drive took me through familiar Portland suburbs, rain streaking the windshield, mirroring the gloom in my heart. I rehearsed polite responses to whatever Marin had cooked up. Troy's voice echoed in my head, "You don't have to say yes to everything, Sarah." I pulled into the driveway, noticing my father's car. Unusual for a Tuesday morning. The knot in my stomach tightened. Mom practically vibrated with excitement as she opened the door. Perfect timing. "Come in, come in." The house smelled like chocolate cake. Marin's favorite, not mine. Some things never change. "Where's Marin?" I asked, following Mom through the hall. "Just wait," she whispered, her voice hushed with anticipation. "Close your eyes." I didn't. Instead, I stepped into the living room and froze. Marin stood on a small footstool in front of the mirror, wearing a floor-length white gown with delicate beading and a sweetheart neckline. It wasn't a bridesmaid dress. It was a wedding dress. My mother beamed with pride. "Doesn't your sister look beautiful?" she gushed. "This is perfect for leading you down the aisle." The room literally spun. "Leading me down the aisle?" Marin turned, her lips curving into that familiar smile, the one that always said she'd won something I didn't even know we were competing for. "Surprise," she chirped. "Ugh. I don't understand." My voice sounded distant, foreign even to my own ears. Mom rushed to explain, clasping her hands together. "Well, since your father is walking you down, we thought having Marin lead the procession in something special would be so meaningful. She's your big sister, after all." "In a wedding dress?" The words came out sharper than I intended. Marin's face fell in practiced disappointment. "It's not technically a wedding dress. It's just bridal adjacent." My father stood in the corner, studying his shoes as if they held the secrets of the universe. "I think it's inappropriate," I said, my voice hoarse. "It looks exactly like a wedding dress." Mom's expression hardened. Marin deserves a special moment. She's been through so much emotionally. And there it was. The familiar script. Marin deserves it. Marin needs it. Marin, Marin, Marin. A memory surfaced, my 10th birthday. Mom served chocolate cake despite my request for strawberries. "Just let your sister have this. She's so picky." "You'll eat anything," she'd said, cutting Marin the first and largest slice. Another memory. Bringing home straight A's, receiving a $20 bill slipped into my hand with minimal acknowledgement. The same week, Marin's report card, full of C's and D's, earned her a $150 shopping spree for trying so hard despite her challenges. I looked at my sister now, 20 years later, still being rewarded for simply existing, while I bent and folded myself smaller. "It's not like anyone will be looking at you anyway with Troy there," Marin said, smoothing the white fabric over her hips. "He's so handsome. Everyone will be watching him." The casual cruelty landed like a physical slap. "I don't want you wearing white to my wedding." My voice, though, sounded foreign. "Steady. Clear." Mom's face flushed. "You've always been so selfish. Your sister just wants to share your special day." I looked at my father, silently pleading for intervention. After a long moment, he cleared his throat. "Sarah, it's not worth fighting about," he said wearily. "Just let it go." The familiar sensation washed over me, the feeling of being erased, of making myself smaller to accommodate everyone else's needs. I'd spent 28 years perfecting the art of disappearing. My phone rang in my pocket. "Troy, I need to take this," I said, walking outside onto the porch, my hands trembling as I answered. Behind me, I heard Marin and my mother laughing. "Hey, how's it going with the alterations?" Troy asked. Something in my breathing must have given me away. "What's wrong?" His voice sharpened with concern. "The dam broke. They want Marin to basically wear a wedding dress and lead me down the aisle." Silence. 2 heartbeats. Then, "I'm coming to get you. This ends now." No questions. No suggestions to compromise. No reminder that family is complicated. Just immediate, unwavering support. It hit me then. This was the first time someone had stood up for me without hesitation. "I'll be fine," I said, my voice steadier. "I'll meet you at home." I hung up and returned inside, a strange calm settling over me. 3 faces turned toward me, expressions ranging from triumph to weariness. "I need to think about this," I said quietly. My mother blinked, surprised by my lack of immediate surrender. "Well, we need to decide soon. The dress needs alterations." I nodded, picking up my purse. "I'll call you tomorrow." As I left, I heard my mother's voice. "Don't worry. She'll give in. She always does." I slid into my car, tears streaming down my face as I pulled away. But beneath the pain, something new was taking root. This time, I wouldn't give in. This time, everything changes. I pushed open the door to my apartment, half expecting it to be empty. Instead, Troy stood in the middle of the living room, pacing like a caged animal. The sight of him, solid, present, already here for me, broke something loose inside my chest. "Tell me everything," he said, crossing the room and taking my hands in his. "Everything. From the beginning." His touch anchored me as words tumbled out, not just today's fresh betrayal, but older wounds, long buried. When I was 12, my grandmother gave me her sapphire necklace. It disappeared from my jewelry box a week later. Troy's fingers tightened around mine. Mom accused me of being careless, said I probably lost it at school. The memory still stings. 2 months later, I found it in Marin's pocket when I was doing laundry. When I told Mom, she said I was just trying to get Marin in trouble. Troy guided me to the couch, his expression darkening. Then there was Mark, my first boyfriend when I was 16. I haven't thought about this in years. Marin told my parents she saw him with his arm around another girl at the mall. They grounded me for a month and wouldn't let me see him. By the time I could, he'd moved on. "And the other girl?" Troy asked softly. "His cousin, visiting from Seattle." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I found out later from his friend. No one believed me when I tried to explain. Troy listened, really listened, in a way no one in my family ever had. His face grew more serious with each story, until he leaned forward, his eyes locking with mine. "Serafina," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "what they've been doing to you is psychological abuse." The words hung between us like a physical presence. I pulled my hands away, shaking my head. They're just a normal family with favorites. The defense sounded hollow, even to my own ears. Normal families don't systematically sacrifice one child for another. Troy's voice remained gentle, but his words cut through decades of carefully constructed excuses. "What they're doing with this wedding is just the latest in a pattern that's been happening your entire life." The truth of it crashed over me like a wave, and suddenly, I couldn't breathe. Tears spilled down my cheeks as everything I'd been holding back for years broke free. "I want to cancel the wedding," I sobbed. "Or elope. Anything but this." Troy took my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears. "No. If we run, they win. They've taken 28 years from you. They will not take this day." A knock at the door interrupted us. June stood in the hallway, holding bags of takeout and a bottle of wine. "I come bearing reinforcements," she announced, her smile fading when she saw my tear-stained face. "Oh, honey. What happened?" Over pad thai and red wine, I told June everything. About the white dress. About Troy's declaration that what my family does is abuse. About the lifetime of moments where I'd been taught that my needs came last, if they mattered at all. "We need a strategy," Troy said, reaching for his phone. "Not revenge, but boundaries and consequences." He called his brother Caleb, putting him on speaker. "We need your professional assessment of the situation." Caleb's security expertise brought clarity to the chaos in my head. After hearing the details, his voice came through, serious and certain. "This is manipulative, but predictable behavior. People who've gotten away with this kind of thing for decades don't stop just because you ask nicely." June scrolled through her phone, brow furrowed. "I'm looking at texts from Marin over the years. There's a pattern here." She read aloud, "I don't know why you'd want that haircut with your face shape. Don't worry about looking cheap at the rehearsal dinner. No one will notice you anyway." Each example landed like a stone in my stomach. How had I normalized this for so long? I opened my laptop, checking email. I should look at the wedding correspondence. What I found felt like a punch to the gut. My mother had emailed the wedding planner last week requesting special seating for Marin at the front with the bride. I kept scrolling, the betrayal deepening. She'd also contacted the photographer about special sister photos during the ceremony. Troy's brother arrived with security contracts while we were still processing these discoveries. He laid them on the coffee table with a grim expression. What if no one believes me? The fear rose, thick in my throat. What if everyone takes their side? June reached for my hand. "I've watched them do this to you for years, Sarah. Remember your 25th birthday? Your mom spent the whole dinner talking about Marin's promotion, then criticized your outfit when you finally spoke up." Troy remained steady beside me. "People will see the truth when it happens." I reached for my phone, hesitating before dialing. Uncle Mateo answered on the third ring. "Serafina? Everything okay, sweetheart?" I told him everything, my voice growing stronger with each word. His response brought the first real comfort I'd felt all day. "I've watched this happen your whole life, Sarah. It's time it stopped." His voice grew fierce with protection. "And if Jacob won't walk you down the aisle, I will. It would be my honor." We spent the next hour making strategic decisions, not in anger, but with clear-eyed purpose. Hire professional security with explicit instructions about white dresses. Communicate with the venue about potential disruptions. Create and enforce a strict guest list and dress code. Assign June and Caleb to run interference with guests. "We're not getting revenge," Troy emphasized, his hand warm on my back. "We're setting a boundary and enforcing it." Later, when everyone had gone, I made my first quiet stand, changing my phone settings to send family calls directly to voicemail. The small act felt monumental, like stepping onto foreign soil. Troy watched me from the doorway of our bedroom. "You okay?" "I think I will be," I said, surprised to find I meant it. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time since our engagement, Troy's protective presence beside me, dreaming not of white dresses or family betrayal, but of a future where I finally, fully belonged. 2 days passed in a strange fog of notifications. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating, each alert sending a small earthquake through my nightstand. I scrolled through the notifications without opening them. 14 missed calls from Mom, 8 from Marin, and a single text from my father. "Your mother is very upset. Call her." I set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Troy's arm rested protectively across my waist, his breathing still steady with sleep. The digital clock read 6:24 a.m. My phone buzzed again. A voicemail notification. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Troy, and took the phone to the bathroom. Mom's voice filled the small space, syrupy sweet at first. "Serafina, honey, I know you're upset, but you're overreacting. It's just a dress, call me back." I played the next one, recorded 3 hours later. "This silent treatment is childish. We're trying to make your wedding special." And the next, from yesterday evening, the sweetness evaporated completely. "You're ruining your relationship with your sister over nothing. After everything we've done for you." I deleted the rest without listening and opened Marin's latest text. "I just wanted to be part of your special day. Why are you being so cruel?" The familiar guilt rose like bile, but something else rose with it now. Anger, sharp and clarifying. A knock at the bathroom door made me jump. "Are you okay in there?" Troy asked. I opened the door. "My family's been busy." He took the phone from my hand, scanned the messages, his jaw tightening. "Your cousin Diane called last night while you were in the shower. I forgot to tell you." "What did she want?" "To warn you. Apparently your mother is telling everyone you're having some kind of nervous breakdown." The room seemed to tilt slightly. I gripped the edge of the sink. "Of course she is." Troy set the phone down. "We're meeting the venue coordinator at 10. Want breakfast first?" I nodded, grateful for his calm practicality, for how he didn't ask if I wanted to call them back or suggest I was overreacting. For the first time in my life, someone believed my experience without question. Later that day, the venue was even more beautiful in daylight, a converted garden estate with climbing roses and a view of Mount Hood in the distance. The coordinator, a woman in her 50s named Brenda, greeted us with a firm handshake. "So tell me what I can help with today," she said, leading us to her office. Troy took my hand. "We anticipate some uninvited individuals may try to cause a disruption at our wedding." I braced for skepticism, for the familiar tilt of her head that would indicate she thought we were overreacting. Instead, Brenda nodded knowingly. "You'd be surprised how often family drama happens at weddings. Tell me exactly what you're concerned about." The words caught in my throat. How do I explain 28 years of being the family scapegoat? How my sister and mother turned my wedding into another opportunity to erase me? Troy squeezed my hand. "Specifically, we're concerned that the bride's sister may attempt to attend in what amounts to a wedding dress." Brenda's eyebrows rose slightly. "Well, that's a new one, but easily addressed." She pulled out a contract, pointed to a section, and added a handwritten clause. Any guest, besides the bride, attempting to enter in a wedding dress or similarly disruptive attire will be denied entry. She had me initial it, her matter-of-fact attitude making the situation feel manageable rather than catastrophic. "Will your mother support this decision?" she asked. I laughed, the sound brittle even to my own ears. "She's the one who suggested my sister wear white in the first place." Brenda didn't look surprised. She just added another note to the file. "We'll have additional security posted at all entrances." We signed the final contracts, and as we left, I felt both lighter and heavier, protected but saddened by the necessity of it all. Back home, a package waited by the door. My wedding dress. June arrived minutes after we did, her timing suspicious enough that I knew Troy had called her. "Want to try it on?" she asked, her excitement genuine. In the bedroom, I stepped into the ivory gown, the weight of it settling around me like armor. June zipped it up, then stepped back, hands covering her mouth. "Oh, Sarah, is it okay?" I smoothed the fabric, suddenly unsure. Tears welled in June's eyes. "You deserve this moment, Sarah. All of it." A sharp knock at the front door interrupted us. June helped me out of the dress, hanging it carefully in the closet. In the living room, Troy stood frozen, his expression warning me before I saw them. My mother and Marin, uninvited and unannounced, in my apartment. "We're worried about you," honey, Mom said, her concern as authentic as cubic zirconia. "You're not answering our calls." Marin stood slightly behind her, eyes red and puffy. "I just wanted to be there for my little sister." I felt something shift inside me, like tectonic plates rearranging after decades of pressure. I stood straighter. "I've made my decision. Marin will not be wearing white to my wedding." My mother's face changed, concern melting into something harder, more honest. "After everything we've done for you? This is how you repay us." A moment later, the front door opened again, and Troy stepped in, stopping when he saw the scene. He moved silently behind me, not touching me but close enough that I felt his presence. My mother turned to him, softening her expression. "You know how emotional brides get. Surely you understand." "I understand perfectly what's happening here," Troy said, his voice carrying the chill of absolute certainty. Marin stepped forward, tears falling on cue. "If I can't wear what I want, I'm not coming." The threat hung in the air, meant to crumble my resolve. All my life, their approval had been oxygen, necessary, constant, and withheld just enough to keep me gasping. "That's your choice," I said quietly. My mother's mouth opened slightly, shocked by my failure to surrender. She recovered quickly, gathering her purse with sharp, angry movements. "You'll regret this," she said, the words landing like a curse. "When you've calmed down, call us." They left without another word, the door clicking shut behind them with surprising softness. Troy pulled me into his arms as the tears came, releasing years of accumulated grief. Later that evening, my phone rang. My father's number. I answered, hopeful despite myself. "Serafina," he said, his voice hesitant. It was his first solo contact in years. "Your mother and sister are devastated. Can't you compromise?" I closed my eyes against fresh tears. "Dad, I've compromised my entire life, but not my wedding day." A long pause, his uncomfortable silence more telling than words. Finally, he sighed. "I'll try to talk to them." I hung up, not believing him but appreciating the gesture. Troy pulled me close as I cried again, mourning the father I thought I had. "The hardest part about setting boundaries," he whispered, "is watching people prove why you needed them." Days passed in a blur of wedding preparations. Troy added Caleb and June to all planning meetings, now witnesses to every decision, every contract signed. Then, 3 days before the wedding, a text from my father appeared. "Your mother and sister are very hurt. I don't know if I can walk you down the aisle with all this tension." I read it twice, the abandonment complete now. My hands shook as I called Uncle Mateo. "Serafina," he answered warmly, "how are you holding up?" "Dad might not walk me down the aisle," I said, the words rushing out before I lost courage. Would you do it?" "It would be my honor, Serafina," he said without hesitation. "I've watched you grow into an amazing woman." The night before the wedding, I lay awake beside Troy, trembling with the realization that tomorrow could be the end of my relationship with my family. The thought brought both grief and strange relief. June slept on our couch, her quiet snores a comforting reminder that family isn't always blood. I slipped out of bed and found my journal in the dark, writing by the glow of my phone. "I will choose myself no matter what happens." The words looked foreign on the page, hopeful, certain, and finally my own. On the wedding day, the morning light spilled through the bridal suite windows as June fastened the last pearl button on my wedding dress. The other bridesmaids fluttered around me, adjusting my veil, touching up makeup, snapping photos I was barely present for. My phone buzzed with another text from Troy. "Security confirms all systems go. Everyone has clear instructions. You just focus on being the bride." I exhaled slowly, smoothing imaginary wrinkles from the satin bodice. A text from Caleb followed, "Guards at every entrance. Nobody gets past us without proper attire." Uncle Mateo's message arrived next. "Ready when you are, sweetheart. You look beautiful." June caught me staring at the phone. "Everything okay?" "Fine," I lied, setting it face down on the vanity. "Just wedding day jitters." We rode to the venue in comfortable silence. June held my hand, giving it occasional squeezes when my breathing caught. The garden came into view, lush greenery surrounding 120 white chairs, arranged in neat rows, an arch of roses marking the spot where Troy and I would become husband and wife. My chest tightened at the beauty of it all. As we slipped in through the back entrance, I spotted Uncle Mateo waiting in the hallway. His charcoal suit perfectly pressed, a white rose pinned to his lapel. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. "You are a vision," he whispered, keeping a respectful distance. I scanned the area behind him. "Any sign of my parents? Or Marin?" Mateo's expression softened. "Not yet, sweetheart." A security guard approached, clipboard in hand. "Miss Mercer. All guests are being checked at the entrance. Everything's proceeding normally." I nodded my thanks as June ushered me into the small anteroom, where I'd wait until the ceremony began. She fussed with my veil one last time. "Perfect," she declared, stepping back. The bridesmaids filed out to take their positions, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I stood before the full-length mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back, calm exterior, inner turmoil. 20 years of making myself small, of second-guessing my worth, culminating in this moment. The irony didn't escape me. I wasn't nervous about marrying Troy. I was grieving the family that should be supporting me, but chose to weaponize what should be my happiest day. My phone rang, shattering the silence. Dad. My hand trembled as I answered. Dad? Serafina. His voice was tight with urgency. You need to come to the main entrance right now and handle this. My stomach dropped. Handle what? Marin is wearing a white dress, and these men won't let her in. The accusation in his tone made my knees weak. You're making the family look bad in front of everyone. Hot tears welled up, blurring my reflection in the mirror. Dad, did you know she was planning this? His silence stretched between us, damning in its length. Then, defensive, it's just a dress, Serafina. Something broke inside me then, the final thread of hope that my father might, just once, choose me. Goodbye, Dad. I ended the call, my hands shaking so violently I almost dropped the phone. June rushed in. Everything okay? You're as pale as your dress. I looked at her, this friend who had witnessed years of my family's manipulation, who stood by me when Troy helped me see the truth. I'm ready to walk in. Alone. Her eyes widened. Are you sure? Completely. I turned toward the closed doors. Signal the musicians to start. The first notes of canon in D filtered through as June slipped out. I stood tall, shoulders back, chin lifted. For the first time in my life, I felt the rightness of choosing myself. The doors swung open. 120 faces turned toward me. I took my first step into the aisle, my eyes fixed on Troy waiting at the altar, his smile radiating such love it nearly buckled my knees. Suddenly, a scream cut through the music, Marin's voice, unmistakable in its fury. The music faltered. Every head swiveled toward the commotion at the main entrance, visible through the open doorway behind me. I froze mid-step, bringing one hand to my mouth in what appeared to be shock. Through the doorway, guests had a perfect view of Marin in a pristine white wedding gown that rivaled my own, flanked by two suited security guards physically blocking her entrance. My mother stood beside her, face contorted in rage, while my father hovered helplessly behind them. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Is that her sister? In a wedding dress. One of the security guards spoke with practiced calm. This person is violating the dress code and is not permitted entry. My mother's voice carried through the garden. We already told the bride. The words hung in the air, an inadvertent confession. Troy and Caleb strode past me toward the commotion. June rushed to my side, slipping an arm around my waist. Those people are trespassers, Troy confirmed to security. Please escort them out. Uncle Mateo stepped into the aisle then, walking slowly toward me. Without a word, he offered his arm, his eyes kind but determined. Let me walk you to your future, he said softly, like the daughter I always wanted. Around us, guests' expressions transformed from confusion to understanding to disgust as the scene's implications became clear. Real tears streamed down my face now, not from grief, but from the relief of truth finally exposed. I took Mateo's arm, continuing my journey to the altar with my head high. Troy returned to his place, reaching for my hands and squeezing them reassuringly. He leaned toward the microphone. We apologize for the disruption. The ceremony will continue as planned. The officiant cleared his throat in the heavy silence. As we exchanged vows, my voice grew stronger with each promise. When Troy kissed me, the room erupted in thunderous applause, not just for our union, but in solidarity against what they'd witnessed. Hand in hand, we walked back down the aisle as husband and wife. I noticed the conspicuous emptiness where my family should be standing. Troy leaned close, his lips brushing my ear. It's our day now, just like we planned. And for the first time since this ordeal began, I smiled without reservation, stepping into the sunlight of my new life. The reception hall glowed with amber light, strings of delicate bulbs crisscrossing overhead like stars brought down to earth. My hand trembled slightly in Troy's as we entered to applause. The moment should have been pure celebration, but the weight of what had transpired hung in the air, an unspoken conversation rippling through the room. A woman I recognized as Troy's mother's friend approached first, squeezing my hand. I had no idea what your family was like, she whispered, her eyes soft with concern. You handled that with such grace. Others followed, offering similar sentiments as we moved through the reception line, each comment lodging in my chest, validation after years of silence. From across the room, Caleb intercepted an elderly couple clearly burning with curiosity. His voice carried just enough for me to catch, just a family disagreement about appropriate wedding attire, nothing that should overshadow the celebration. June stationed herself nearby, deflecting whenever conversation veered toward the ceremony's disruption. Today it's about Serafina and Troy, not family drama. Her words formed a protective barrier, allowing me moments to breathe. Troy never left my side. When a cluster of guests approached, his arm slipped around my waist, a physical shield against intrusive questions. His thumb traced small circles against the small of my back, a silent reminder that I wasn't alone. Uncle Mateo moved easily among Troy's relatives, his genuine warmth bridging what could have been an awkward divide. Within an hour, he and Troy's father were exchanging fishing stories as if they'd known each other for years. When time came for toasts, Mateo stood, crystal glass catching the light. "To finding the family you need," he said, his eyes finding mine across the room, whether by blood or by choice. The words washed over me like absolution. Throughout dinner, June kept my phone in her clutch. Occasionally, she'd glance at the screen, her expression carefully neutral. "Your mother has called 17 times," she reported during a quiet moment. "Your sister 12. Troy leaned close, his voice low. "Do you want to know what they're saying?" I looked around at the tables filled with people who had witnessed my family's true nature and still chosen to stay and celebrate. Not today, I decided. Today is ours. The band began playing our first dance song. Troy led me to the center of the floor, one hand steady at my waist. "You okay?" he murmured as we began to move. "Getting there," I answered honestly. As the song ended, the band leader announced the father-daughter dance. A collective intake of breath rippled through the room, guests who knew what had happened bracing for another uncomfortable moment. Before hesitation could take root, Mateo appeared at my elbow. "May I?" he asked, extending his hand. We moved slowly to the music, Mateo leading with surprising grace for a man who claimed to have 2 left feet. "Did I ever tell you about the science fair when you were 9? He asked, his voice pitched for my ears alone. "Your volcano erupted all over the judges' table." A surprised laugh escaped me. I was mortified. "Jacob missed it, working late again. But I saw how bright you were, even when no one else noticed." Mateo's voice caught. "I should have said something sooner about how they treated you." "You're here now," I said, realizing it was enough. The reception flowed into a blur of genuine laughter and unexpected joy. Troy's mother pulled me into a fierce hug during a line dance, holding me like the daughter she'd never had. "We're so glad you're part of our family now," she whispered. Later, Troy tugged me away from the celebration, leading me to a small garden terrace outside the venue. The night air cooled my flushed skin. "Are you okay?" he asked, studying my face. "Really okay?" I considered the question, searching past the surface answer. "It hurts," I admitted finally, "but I feel free." When we returned, the celebration continued undiminished. We cut the cake, fed each other bites, and danced until my feet ached in my wedding shoes. No family drama could touch the genuine happiness I felt in these moments. As the night wound down, guests departed with warm wishes. June and Caleb insisted on handling final details while the newlyweds slipped away. In the car, I finally retrieved my phone from June's care. The screen lit up with notifications, dozens of missed calls and texts that grew increasingly frantic. "Marin, you've ruined everything. How could you humiliate me like this?" "Evelyn, this is unforgivable. You've broken your father's heart." Unknown cousins and relatives I barely spoke to had left voicemails demanding explanations. I put the phone away, too exhausted to engage. "We don't have to deal with that tonight," Troy said, his eyes on the road. Our honeymoon suite took my breath away. Roses and candles arranged by Caleb and June covered every surface, transforming the hotel room into something magical. The door had barely closed when my carefully maintained composure crumbled. I sank onto the bed in my wedding dress, sobs racking my body. Years of swallowed pain poured out in waves. Troy didn't try to stop my tears. He simply sat on the floor beside the bed in his expensive suit, one hand holding mine, anchoring me through the storm. "You're safe," he said simply. "You did the right thing. This is our day now." Through blurred vision, I looked at this man who had stood by me without question. The realization settled into my bones. I had chosen correctly. The old war was over. My new life had begun. That night, more calls and texts flooded in, accusations and guilt wrapped in family obligation. I watched them appear on my screen, feeling strangely disconnected from their power. "I think I need to respond once, then be done with it," I said. Troy nodded. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." I drafted a single message to the family group chat, my fingers steady on the screen. "We need space. Your actions at our wedding were unacceptable. When you are ready to accept responsibility and offer a sincere apology for deliberately trying to ruin our day, we can talk. Until then, do not contact us." Troy read it over my shoulder, nodded his approval. I hit send, then powered off my phone completely. "Let's start our honeymoon early," Troy suggested, loosening his tie. "First flight out tomorrow." We packed quickly, the impromptu change of plans feeling like another small victory, another choice reclaimed. Later, standing at the window looking at the night sky, I felt Troy's arms wrap around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. I always thought standing up to them would feel like revenge, I confessed. But it doesn't. "What does it feel like?" he asked. I took a deep breath, realizing it came easier now, like finally being able to breathe. 6 months after our wedding, I sat cross-legged on our living room sofa, laptop balanced on my knees. The late afternoon sun filtered through gauzy curtains, illuminating photos from our European honeymoon displayed on the wall, Troy and I beneath the Eiffel Tower, us laughing on a gondola in Venice. Small, captured moments of joy that remind me how far I've come. My phone rang on the coffee table. I glanced at it, noting with quiet satisfaction that I no longer flinch at unexpected calls. A year ago, each ring carried the possibility of my mother's manipulations or Marin's latest drama. Now it's just a phone. Troy entered from the kitchen with 2 steaming mugs of coffee, setting mine within reach. He kissed my forehead, our comfortable routine, before settling beside me. "Working on the Henderson project?" he asked, glancing at my screen. I nodded, saving my document before closing the laptop. "Just finished." The wedding wasn't the problem. It was merely the symptom of 28 years of carefully orchestrated abuse. My weekly therapy sessions had given me language for what happened: scapegoating, triangulation, emotional neglect. Words that explain why I spent decades making myself smaller to accommodate Marin's expansiveness. No contact with my parents or sister has been maintained, though their attempts continued for months. Voice messages slowly evolved from Mom's tearful guilt trips to terse demands that I stop being ridiculous. Marin sent texts laced with accusations. Dad's silence spoke volumes. The extended family divided predictably. Aunt Caroline called to express her disappointment in my cruelty toward family. Uncle Mateo and a handful of cousins understood my position. Most simply faded away, uncomfortable with taking sides. My laptop chimed with an incoming email notification. I flipped it open, surprised to see my father's name in my inbox, his first solo communication since the wedding. The message was brief, awkward. "I hope you're doing well. Your mother still won't discuss what happened." I turned the screen toward Troy. "From my dad." He read it quickly. "Do you want to respond?" I considered this, testing my emotional reaction. "Not yet," I said. He's still not acknowledging anything. The doorbell rang. June arrived for dinner, her arms laden with a bottle of wine and a cloth-covered dish. After hugs and kitchen puttering, we settled at the dining table. "So," June said, refilling her wine glass, "Marin's engaged." The words landed between us. 6 months ago, they would have triggered panic, wondering if history would repeat itself with another family member's attempt to overshadow me. Now I felt a surprising calm. "That's her journey now," I said simply. Troy watched me carefully. "Does it bother you?" I considered this honestly. "I wish her happiness. I just can't be part of it." The doorbell rang again. Troy answered while I cleared our plates. I no longer startled at unexpected visitors, no longer assumed every interruption brought disaster. Troy returned with a small package. "Delivery for you." Inside the cardboard box lay a silver-framed photograph from Uncle Mateo. The image showed him walking me down the aisle, both of us smiling through tears. His note read, "The day I gained a daughter. Family is what we make it." I placed it prominently on the mantel, rearranging our other photos to make space. My phone rang. Dad's name on the screen. This time I answered. "Hello." Jacob's voice came through hesitantly. "Marin's planning her wedding. Your mother wants to know if you'll attend." I settled into my resolve, nothing wavering. "Has anything changed, Dad? Has anyone acknowledged what happened at my wedding?" His uncomfortable silence stretched. "Then, it was just a misunderstanding, Serafina." "Then my answer is no. I wish them well." I ended the call without anger, just certainty. Troy took my hand across the kitchen counter. I squeezed his fingers, processing the conversation. "I don't feel guilty anymore," I realized aloud. "That's new." Later that evening, our home filled with laughter and genuine warmth as we hosted June, Caleb, and Mateo for dinner, passing dishes around the table, telling stories, pouring wine. It felt like family. Catching my reflection in the window, I saw a woman standing tall, no longer making herself small. Mateo raised his glass. "To chosen family and hard-won peace." I lifted mine in response. "And to learning that true revenge isn't a single moment. It's building a happy, healthy, respected life, whether your family is part of it or not." After everyone leaves, Troy and I slow dance in our living room. No music plays, just the rhythm of our shared journey. "Sometimes I still miss the family I thought I had," I admit against his shoulder. "That's because you have a good heart," Troy says, his arms steady around me. I look up at him, at this life we've built. "But I wouldn't trade this life, this real life, for anything."